South Africa's marriage laws are headed towards drastic change.
Home Affairs.
So it's taken me a really long time to respond to this one, but let's get into it. So currently, marriages in South Africa are recognized under three pieces of legislation. The first being the Marriages Act. If I can quickly summarize it, the Marriages Act basically deals with Christian marriages, if I can put it as simply as that. We then have the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act, which primarily deals with traditional marriages. When I say traditional, I'm talking about African traditional marriages. And there's a whole bunch of requirements in terms thereof, such as lobola and so forth. And then we then have the Civil Unions Act, which deals with marriages between same-sex partners. Now, this bill is trying to rectify some of the issues that these three pieces of legislation obviously have. The one being that religions such as Islam, Hinduism, the Jewish faith are not recognized or fully recognized in any of these pieces of legislation, which then attacks the constitutionality thereof. And whilst the intention to deal with these issues through creating one piece of legislation, in South Africa, there's always the best of intentions, but the implementation of those intentions is usually what becomes a little bit difficult. So thus far, there have been huge issues, especially from the Muslim community. I know my husband mentioned, even in the Jummah khutbah, this issue came up and we were told to stand up against it, to not accept the marriages bill because for a number of reasons, but I think one of the primary reasons is that it doesn't distinguish that a man and woman should get married. It's kind of all inclusive. It's a bill that's going to include everyone and all sorts of things. Secondly, the other criticism that I see that has come up quite often has been that your marriage officer has to be a registered marriage officer, meaning if your Maulana wants to, or your religious leader wants to perform your ceremony in terms of your particular religion, and they are not a registered marriage officer, that can actually be a criminal offense and they can be prosecuted, possibly sent to jail for performing the ceremony without being a registered marriage officer. And of course, the counter argument to this is it now infringes on people's right to freedom of religion and to practice their religion freely. And these kinds of requirements actually cause more harm than the good that they intended to rectify.